last week on the Nicoletti Show. Let's welcome him on the show. Glenn, there he is.
Well, you bring a lot of energy, man. You set the bar high, so I'm ready. Let's rock and roll.
What are some things that people need to keep aware of? The rise of the real estate investing guru.
The barrier to entry to call yourself a professional, that takes time and money and a lot of resources to do it right. All of a sudden, you have a phone, you're a coach. But that's what we've come to is I call them nurus. There's gurus and there's nurus. And so all these people out there claiming that they are successful because the barrier to entry is so small and people don't know who to trust.
And you nailed it with the amount of hours spent on a topic. When you've spent more than 10,000 hours on something, you've become a master of the craft. In my industry, we've done over 1,000 probates. You really need to be in the trenches.
If you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur, if you're like me, you may not be always great at the details, but you have to have somebody in your corner who is great at the details.
How have you ensured that your business stays profitable?
You have to have somebody better than you, so hire where you're weak. Find people that complement you, and if you find people that complement you, they can manage that bottom line, that profitability, and tie their compensation into it.
Great stuff, Glenn. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We love working with you and Megan. I can't wait to see you soon, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Great stuff, great stuff. Thank you, you do a great job, man.
If you missed any of that episode last week, go back, check that out. You got to get into these episodes. There's always so much to unpack, so much value from the guests. And if you want to find all the episodes from the Nicoletti Show, scan the QR code at the top of the screen. You're going to get our link tree. That's where you're going to get all the stuff from our social media, YouTube, Instagram, all the micro and all the content that's dropping. And of course, all the videos on probates, partitions, quiet titles, all the weird stuff in real estate in Florida. You don't want to miss that. And tonight we got another amazing episode with Mike Hambright. If you don't know Mike Hambright, he is the leader of Investor Fuel, the mastermind, and he is killing it in this industry. And I love what Mike does. I love the value that he brings, and he's going to dive in on some topics that I think you all will love tonight. So again, I encourage everybody as usual, interact, comment, ask questions. This is the time to do it, and I am ready tonight. I got my pen and paper. I'm ready to take notes. I hope you all are as well, and let's rock this thing. Hey everybody, my name is Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate and bring in the best in the game. No matter what market they're in, the industry they're in, real estate adjacent, we will always bring the best guests that can provide the most value to you on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show today, I got the Mike Hambright. Mike is a great guy. This guy, every time I see him at Family Mastermind, he's got a smile. He's ready to go. He's always doing deals and business. And you want to be surrounded with people like Mike Hambright. Because when you're surrounded around people like Mike, you level up. And when you're a part of masterminds that Mike's in or Mike runs, it helps people, right? And he runs Investor Fuel. I know people that are in Investor Fuel, and you know what they're doing at Investor Fuel and what he's been able to help other people do is just incredible. And so I really encourage people to really listen to this advice, really hear his background and experience, because you can always get a lot of value from guests like Mike Hambright. So I'm so happy he gets to come on the show today. So without further ado, let's welcome Mike to the show. There he is, Mike Hambright.
What's up, Al? Dude, you got so much energy. I'm jazzed. I was about to fall asleep, but now I'm like wide awake. Yeah, man.
Perfect. I'm like this every Wednesday night. Like this is me. My team thinks I'm crazy because I'm like this at 9 o'clock at night and 6 a.m. in the morning. It doesn't matter when it is. So
thanks for the energy injection. I appreciate it.
You got it, man. Hey, Mike, let's give everybody a little context. So, tell everybody a little bit about your journey and where you've gotten today, and definitely plug in how you've been able to build that mastermind.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I'll kind of, I guess my podcast, my initial podcast has a big role in that. So I'll go back a little bit further than that. So grew up in a Midwestern family, very much a blue collar family. I'm really the only person that escaped my kind of hometown. I live in Dallas and have been here for more than half my life now, a long time. But I left, moved here from Chicago in 1999. That's a long time ago now. It's 26 years ago. So, you know, I was the first person in my family to go to college, got a degree in finance, went to work in like, you know, for a large bank, let's say, and very much kind of an auditor. It wasn't like I thought I was going to come out and like working on Wall Street, and I was like in a back office somewhere doing administrative like junk, right? And I was like, oh my God, is this really what this is all about? Wasn't happy with that. Then I went to work for a very large retailer that everybody would know. And I was basically a corporate finance guy. Again, not the sexy part of the business at all. We were stuck in a far off building somewhere where they didn't, you know, have to talk to the finance and accounting people. And it was just this realization that, you know, I remember this time when I was sitting in a cube, and there were two teams that each had a team lead. And then those, whatever that is, 6 people reported to one guy, and that one guy reported to one guy. So it was like analyst, manager, director, VP, or something like that. And it's like, I could see the next 30 years of my life within like 20 feet of where I'm sitting right now. And I didn't want to do that. Right. So I was like, this can't be all there is. Right. If you work really hard, someday you're going to, you know, be able to move over into that seat right there. And, or you won't work out and you're going to go who knows where. So I decided to go, you know, what I thought I needed was more formal education, went back to grad school, got an MBA from a top school, met my wife in the program, which was probably one of the better things that came out of it, got out and went back into corporate America, worked for a very large retailer that everybody would know if I said the name, but I really had a dream job. I mean, it was a pretty amazing job. And I was like the golden boy in this like $5 billion company. Like I was the future CEO if there was one in that business, just because I worked for the CEO and he was grooming me for, you know, something bigger and better. But then one day he got caught up in a mess and got fired. And then his outspoken right-hand man, me, was next. They're like, oh, we don't need you either, you know, association. And then to be frank, that $5 billion company doesn't even exist anymore. Like 35,000 people lost their job. It's gone. And then I went to work for a startup. We were flying high. And for 18 months, I was making more money than I've ever made before. It was really awesome. Tons of fun, very entrepreneurial. And then they filed for bankruptcy. And I was like, holy cow. It's just this, like, within 2 years, I went from dream job to another awesome job and to nothing that I really did. I had no control. It was just a realization of working really hard for somebody else and I have no control. And in the last kind of year there, my wife left her job as a consultant. She was making more money than I was, quite frankly, to have our son because we got pregnant. And so when I left that company, the second one, my son was 2 months old. My wife didn't have a job. And now I just quit my job. And we went from like a couple, you know, young couple at the time. You know, we'd only been married for a couple of years, doing really well, to like no income. You know, what the hell are we doing? Baby, we don't know what the hell we're doing as parents either, you know, and just like this realization of like, shit just got real really fast. Right.
Yeah.
And so truthfully, at that point, I wanted to take life into my own hands and kind of basically take control of my family's financial future. But I didn't know exactly what that was. So I kind of tried a few different things for over a few month period. I'd always been interested in real estate investing, and had just, you know, I've been to some weekend boot camps and read some books, but just never did anything. And there were always excuses. And I think a lot of people probably resonate with this. Like, I didn't have time, or I didn't have money, or those are the excuses I used. And now it's like, well, I still don't have a lot of money, but I have some to live on for a while. And now I have nothing but time. And so we ended up diving in. My wife and I both jumped in and said, we're going all in on real estate the summer of 2008. And honestly, and by the way, everybody was running away in 2008. Yeah. And we were running into the fire, but we were, you know, smart people, just naive, honestly, to what was going on. The reality is, in hindsight, it was probably one of the very best times to get in, and we didn't plan that. It just worked out well. So our very first year, we flipped 65 houses in the Dallas market with no prior experience, and went on to do hundreds of flips here and build a rental portfolio and start coaching businesses. And kind of a lot of things have happened, I guess, in the last, whatever that is, 16, 17 years now. But the very first thing was just jumping into real estate with no safety net and burning through savings. And it was like, just, you know, from our perspective, failure was not an option that we were willing to accept in any way.
Mm-hmm. But what a time to do it, right?
Yeah.
What a time. I mean, price points were at a low point. There was a lot of foreclosures happening. Texas, the market, I mean, where it is now, it's blown up. But I mean, what an opportunity then.
Yeah.
And like you said, you guys may not have known what you were doing at the time, but it paid off because now you speed up the years later and look at where you're at. Right.
Yeah.
You guys are you're doing the coaching, you're still probably doing deals, and then you got the mastermind, right? You're helping other leaders and entrepreneurs succeed, and you're showing them the ropes of how you went through that, and then everybody else is collaborating, right? So,
Yep.
And how did you even get to the point of, hey, I'm starting that mastermind?
Well, so it's interesting with Investor Fuel. That's the name of my mastermind. It really, if I kind of go back after I'd flipped about 100 houses, I started, it's interesting kind of when I was in corporate America and we were young. I mean, at the time we were like, let's just say coming up through corporate America for my wife and I both, like late 20s, early 30s life. I'm 50 now, by the way. So I know I still look like I'm 20, but we'll just go with it.
I was going to say 40. You're good.
Yeah. But when you're in corporate America, not for everybody, but for us, there's always happy hours, there's always somebody's birthday, especially when you don't have kids yet. Like there's a social component of that, of being in a large company. There's always the people that also don't have kids or the ones that just don't want to go home quite yet or whatever that are going to have a happy hour. Right. And then we went from like no corporate America, no job, by the way. We rented an office in kind of a hole in the wall strip center in a northern suburb of Dallas. And it was just the two. I mean, we actually started with an admin pretty quickly, but not to say anything negative, but we didn't hang out socially. Like she was just an older lady that was like an admin that came in, and we went from like this like social network of our jobs to like nothing, just ourselves. Right. So we would go to real estate clubs, and the real estate clubs were, the ones we went to they were always a little dicey. They're always a little weird. It's like the blind leading the blind and a bunch of stuff. And so it got to a point to where I said, hey, one way for me, I started like having my own happy hours and like, let's go meet with people that I kind of, did work with, or title companies would throw a happy hour. And that became our kind of social fabric. And I've always been kind of a party planner. Like I've always been the guy that's pulling people together, like a community builder, if you will. And I started doing this thing that I called Rehab Live. So I was like, hey, I'm rehabbing like 5 to 10 houses at any given time. And I was like, and by the way, their social media really wasn't anything like it is now, like 16 years ago. And, so you had to like, you would have these like lists. Like if I sponsored a real estate club, they might give me their list that I could also email to, or give me authority to send one email a month or whatever. And one way or another, I mean, a lot of stuff was done through email. I would just start inviting people to my Rehab Live. And what that was I have to go check on houses all the time anyway. In those days, I was living in my truck, just driving around like acquisitions and checking on rehabs and putting out fires and all this stuff. So I'm like, hey, I'll just time it where I have to go check on a house, and I'm going to go check on it 3 times. And so I started inviting people to come watch us rehab a house, basically. We're going to meet there like right when we close, or maybe even right before we close. And I always picked like hoarder houses or burnouts, like the worst ones that I knew were going to have the biggest transformation, And we would meet there once before, once like halfway through when all the demo's done and we're kind of putting it back together. And then once again at the end, usually over like a 30-day period. It's harder to turn things around as fast as we used to like 15 years ago. But, and people were just like blown away. Like people that haven't done that yet, it looks like magic to them, And for us, at the time, I mean, at one time that was magic for me too. And now it's just like, I'm making a couple phone calls and texts and making that stuff happen, But at the time it was an amazing networking tool, because people are like, hey, like, can you teach me how to do this? How do you do it? Lots of questions. And then of course there was always like, do you need money? Like I'm looking to lend to people like you. Right. And it just turned into, I think I started it really as a social thing of just like to hang out with people and build my own kind of community. And it turned into way more than I could have ever expected. And then it just evolved from there, right? It went from like, okay, then I started a podcast, and the Rehab Lives were all just DFW people. And then the podcast, I started interviewing a lot of people. Like Matt Andrews was actually one of my very first
Love it.
guests. And back then, when you had a podcast, it was always like, man, who do you know? I need like 5 people. Like you were kind of begging for people. Now, like there's booking agencies and it's an incestuous community of people that are on podcasts, right? Or can be at least. But back then you had to kind of be scrappy to find people to kind of show up on your show. And they're like, what is this? And I just talk into this camera right here. And, it was a weird time. It was early stages of it, but the podcast turned into something pretty cool. And then I was doing coaching of a lot of new real estate investors at the time. And I was like, you know what? I really like hanging out more with people that I would consider my peers, like people that are not questioning, does this work? They're people that are already committed to their entrepreneurial journey, but they want to take it to another level. And that was really the birth of the mastermind. I like started, at that point I'd probably done 150 interviews or so. And I'm like, well, how do I hang out with people? They don't really need coaching, but together we're better. And like I'd hear people say somebody's an expert at marketing and somebody's an expert at operations. And I'm like, what if we all got together and talked? And there were a couple masterminds out there, that even some that I dabbled in, and they just culturally, they were usually a lot of ego and things like that. So I was like, I think I could build a better mousetrap here. And I think I have an audience to do it. And so, so we launched Investor Fuel. That was about 7.5 years ago. And it's really turned into very much similar to some of the same things that I just said is, many of my members, I would consider some of my very best friends in the world. Like it's just a community. I kind of refer to it as my second family of people that are traveling all over the world together. And like, we know each other's families and kids and spouses and all that stuff. And it's a bunch of people that are kind of doing business and doing life together. But it's turned into something culturally that's really cool.
That is so cool. Yeah. And every time I hear about like those kind of masterminds and deep connections, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's not just keeping it on the surface level. It's getting deep and building and forming relationships. Yeah. And I know for you, that's a big thing when it comes to networking and business driving and relationships, is the power of building a network, right?
For sure.
And it takes time to do stuff like that. It takes time to go to the meetings. And like you said, the RIAs, the meetups, the different events that are happening, but there is a certain type of power to it. Talk to us about what that is and how it can be a driving force to your business that allows you to also serve.
Yeah, I think, there was a time for me when I remember, this is going to sound like a serious first world problem, but we were flipping a lot of houses and making a lot of money, but it went from like doing deals early on to like, this is changing our lives. And you get to a point to where you make enough money and everybody, but believe me, I always want to make more money. Like I want pallets of $100 bills, like all around me right now. I love money. I love what it does for me. Right. But you get to a point where you're like, that's not enough to like get me inspired every single day. Right. And so that's when I started doing more coaching and sharing things, because it gave me a purpose that was bigger than just myself. Right. And if I could start to help people and see it change their lives or change their families, or their kids get to go to private school now, whatever it is, people that need to pay for their aging parents, like whatever it is for them, it started to give my life more purpose. And so I think that was the early stages of that. And I just found that by surrounding myself with people that are committed to this entrepreneurial journey and willing to go all in all the time, it forces me to level up. It forces me to think bigger. It forces everybody in our community to think bigger, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but every once in a while, I kind of ask myself, or I get in this situation where I'm like, I feel like I'm thinking too small. Like, how do I think bigger here? Mm-hmm. And so one of the ways you think bigger is by being around people that have accomplished things that don't seem like they're possible, but they've already done it. Right.
Yeah.
And so it just forces you to kind of think bigger. But yeah, I would say, of all the things that I do, and I have a lot going on, just like you do, is that this is the place that I would say is a passion project. Like it's a business for me. I have a big team to support, bigger than ever. It's not just like, that I think that's the problem with a lot of the RIA clubs that I used to go to. It was like somebody that had a full-time job or business, and every once in a while they just throw something together in like 30 minutes before it starts. And like, it just felt like it was just thrown together. And ours, I mean, we have, support staff. We've got, I have a team of like 15 people that are helping with putting on events, hosting events, and all the support associated with that. So we really, even I think early on in our mastermind, it was for events a year, like the traditional quarterly event, but now it's weekly training calls, and we train our members teams on stuff as well. We like travel all over the world. We typically do 3 big trips. We had a ski trip to Park City earlier this year. Last fall, we went to Oktoberfest in Germany together, went to Iceland for New Year's. I'm having events out at my ranch now. So, damn near every week we've got stuff going on. And I just some of it was like going through COVID and going through the last couple of years in this thing too. It's like, how do we continue to add more value to our members so that they just never want to leave? And it's just kind of continues to evolve, and we're constantly asking, what can we do to add more value? What can we do to make sure another member never leaves? Because they're getting so much value here, like no matter what, even if they can't make the meetings, like, over the past year, I've been asking, what if I could save or pay my members far more than they're paying to be a member of this group, to where it would cost them more to not be a member. And we've cracked the code on that now. So we have members that are like, dude, I can never leave now. And it's not the selfish side of the business, but it's like, you guys are my second family. I don't want you to leave,
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, you went from having that thinking small to thinking big, and it takes going through those growing pains and that mindset to then take it up a notch. And when you're surrounding yourself around people like you and people in family and others that are just doing things at a high level, that's when things start to expand. You start to think outside the box. How are we going to grow this? How can we help others in their business? And even doing podcasts like this in the show, it's like the idea of it is the guest and the value that come from guests like you, Mike, help other people. They're listening, they're watching, and there's always these little tidbits that come out from the guests that help others, and they implement them. And I get emails and calls and about, hey, I saw so-and-so on the show, and it works. Right. So, and I know that'll happen. So I totally agree that the power of that networking is so important. And I encourage people that are listening and watching to go to your local meetups, go to your meetups, go to your RIAs, go to all these other meetups. And, you want to join a mastermind, you got Mike Hambright right here, right? Like there's different avenues to growing your business. Now, Mike, transitioning to people that either are maybe starting out or they're in the day-to-day and they're still in that employee mindset, right? Yeah. How do they get through that transition of going through that employee to business owner mindset? And what are some of those tools that they need to have that business owner mindset?
Yeah, I think it is the biggest thing. I talk about these things a lot, actually. And I usually use the Robert Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant, like going from the upper left to the lower left, which is basically employee to self-employed. And then the next box is being a business owner. And the next box is a passive investor, where your money makes money for you while you sleep. You have no role in that business at all. And I probably have something going on in all those boxes on some level. And but I think about it a lot because I did that, right? And I've interviewed so many people like you that tell their story as to like how they got started. And it usually, it's not like every time, but it's a very common theme that somebody got backed into a corner where they had to like take action now. And I see it with I'll use an example of my son. I have a 17-year-old son. I told you my son was born like right before we started our business. He actually will be turning 18 here in a few more months. So it's been that long, but he's in high school right now and he's not a very good student, but he somehow pulls out every quarter, like right at the end, it's like a bunch of Hail Marys, and he's all of a sudden his grades go from like embarrassing to like acceptable, It's just like this Hail Mary. And so, but one of the things about a job is it's unfortunate that a lot of people, it's like, it feels like a safety net or it's a cushion. Right. And so I think a lot of people that I've interviewed, and this is myself, I know people, and you probably know people that will tell me stories like, I was living in my car, I had to move back into my parents' house in the basement or things like that. And, we were burning through our savings. Like we weren't destitute. It wasn't that bad, but it was embarrassing, right? It was like, okay, we both had good jobs and we committed to being successful. Our families thought we were crazy. Like, why are you doing that? Like, why don't you go get another job, which we could have done, but it was just like, we've had enough already. Like, this isn't going to work for us, And then of course, in 2008, everybody's like, but the real estate market is crashing and like all these things. And it's like, well, that's the best time. In hindsight, I didn't know how to answer that at the time, but in hindsight, like that's a good time to buy, right? But what I would say for people that are getting started is you have to commit your time in a way to where you don't come home from a job and flip on the TV and spend, all your time either building somebody else's dream or business and then wasting the rest of your time on things that add no value to your life. So you need to spend at least as much time on building your own dreams as you do on building somebody else's. And I know it's hard to do if people have kids in sports and like all these things going on, but like it's not forever, but you got to get out of the gate, right? And I think if you kind of position yourselves and think about that you don't have a safety net, because it's real easy to be like, well, I'm still getting a paycheck. Subconsciously, a lot of these thoughts happen, right? Where you're just like, well, yeah, I'm not going to focus on it today because it's been busy at work or whatever. And so you really just have to kind of proverbially burn the boats. And I've coached like thousands of people, and a common question is like, should I quit my job? And my answer to that is like, I don't really want to be responsible for somebody quitting their job and digging that hole. But I tell people, the people that I've seen be the most successful burn the boats. And so if you don't want to like literally do that and quit your job and focus on something else, then you need to kind of rebuild that scenario where you might still be at that job, but that job's dead to you. Like you're in transition mode.
Yeah.
And every waking moment you have outside of your job is building your thing.
Yeah. And you have to be grinding, right? Like you have to be committed. And I think a lot of people think it's like a dabble process. It's like when you jump into this, you have to be fully committed. If you're going to run a business, and you got to be all in, and you can't have one foot out, one foot in, like, and what you're giving to people is what they need to hear, Mike, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I kind of like your talking points as well. It's almost like a tiered level, right? Like you have the advice for people that are just starting out, but then it looks like you have also the advice for people that are in the game and now want to start scaling their business. So they've got 1 to 10 deals or 20 deals, but now they want to take it up a notch. For those that are in that position of they've done a few deals or maybe 10 deals, and now it comes time for growing their team, adding on team members, scaling the business. How do you start getting through those pain points and going and transitioning to a higher level in your business?
Yeah. And that is our mastermind. I mean, our average, we have different groups inside of our mastermind, but our top group is people that are doing 100+ deals a year. And so in our, probably our average throughout 150 members of our mastermind is people that are probably doing 60 to 75 deals a year. Some are doing 20, we have guys that are doing 600 or 800 deals a year.
Wow.
And so it's kind of crazy to imagine that. Right. But yeah, it depends. So one thing that I would say, and this is me saying things differently than I did early on, because I used to think that in my earlier years that everybody wanted to be big. Like the goal was be bigger, be bigger, be bigger. And so that bigger is not always better. The guys that are doing 600 or 800 deals a year, like I don't want to be them. Like they've got 100 employees and they operate 10 markets, and that's not what I want, and that's not what everybody wants. But it's good for them, and they're amazing at it. And so what I think is, I used to because people would say it early on. I was like, well, what are your goals? And like, I want to be like you. And then sometimes I would think, I don't really want to be like me. So why should I become the blueprint for what you want to do? So I think the important thing is to really have clear goals. Is what is it you're trying to accomplish? And then find a way to create a roadmap for how to hit that goal. So it's not about what anybody else is doing, and it's not about what anybody's doing on social media. It's really about what do you want to do and what are your goals. And so, but the good thing about real estate is you can kind of reverse engineer how to get to that point. I mean, most people will know what their average profit is based on their exit strategy. Are they wholesaling it? Are they fix and flipping it? Or are they doing some deals that they're turning into rentals that they're really not making any money on today? They're foregoing that profit in the future. So you can kind of figure out like, hey, to be comfortable in my life, I need to make $200,000 a year, whatever it is. And it's like, okay, well, by the time you discount, by the time you take out your marketing expense and your rental, your office rental and an admin expense or whatever, like you need to do 400,000 to net 200,000, and 400,000. If you make 20,000 a deal, you need to do 20 deals a year. Right. And you kind of back into and reverse engineer. It's a little academic, but it's not far off. And so what I really help people do a lot in our mastermind and what we help each other do is to create a blueprint to buy back your time. Right. And so It's real easy. That first box we talked about on Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant after you got an employee is self-employed. And that's where most real estate investors, honestly, most entrepreneurs end up, is they might be a business owner, but they're the number one employee. Like if they go on vacation or they get sick or something happens, that business is probably dead in the water, or it's going sideways at best, right? And so if you want to start to scale your business and buy back and get your time back, like most people want freedom, and they start by thinking it's financial freedom, but they get to a point to where even if they have money, if they're chained to their job, nobody wants that either. And so you really want that time freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get your time freedom? Well, you have to make money to buy back your time. And that is simply by taking yourself out of the seats that you're sitting in. Right. So if you're doing all the acquisitions in your business, for example, you might need to fill that role with one or two people that can take that off of your plate. If you're doing a lot of the administrative duties, you would hire an office manager, an admin, an executive assistant, somebody like that to handle a lot of the administrative tasks. And so if you think about it like this, and then I came out of Fortune 500 companies. And so I think about it like this, like as a small business owner, your org chart doesn't have as many seats as a Fortune 500 company, but it has the same leadership seats. You have to have HR, you have to have marketing, you have accounting and finance, you have business operations, you have the CEO, right? You have the same. It's just as a small business, your name is on all those boxes on the org chart. So it's like, okay, I'm not very good at marketing. And so I either need to make enough money to afford to hire to bring somebody in to manage that for me, or I need to outsource it to a service. Marketing's a relatively easy one to outsource, and some certainly easier than some. But you just have to start taking your name off of those seats, and you go from having 5 or 6 full-time jobs to you try to work your way down to one, and then from there try to work yourself down to I don't have to work full-time anymore because I have a big enough team to be able to do all these things. So it's not about building a big team, and it's not about being so profitable that you're flying around the world on private jets and stuff like that. If you want those things, that's fantastic. Go get that Lambo, whatever. If you can really afford it, go get it. But the first stop is use that money as dry powder to go buy back your time and become a true owner of the business that doesn't have to be in the business every day, all day long.
Yeah. And I can very much relate to what you're talking about, Mike, because when I first started the law firm, my own law firm, it really was just me and one assistant. And I felt like I had 5 to 6 jobs, maybe even 7 or 8. And over time, I'm thinking, I'm staying up till 4 in the morning. I'm waking up at 7 a.m. And I mean, I had no sleep, and it was just on and on. And, we saw the business growing. At a certain point, I'm thinking, I got to start delegating these things. I got to start bringing on people that have specific roles. And over the last 3-4 years, I've been able to hire team members that can take on those roles. And now we have tasks assigned to them. I have an intake specialist, I have an office manager. And by delegating those roles, it's helped me scale. It's bought back my time, and I'm able to send over the leads that come through so we can get the right info. And now it allows me to do what I do best. And 100% agree. I think a lot of people get stuck in that control over that they got to manage all these things. Meanwhile, you got to have that trust to hire people, find the right people that can actually lead, and find leaders that will say, I got this. I'll take control of this. I'll handle this, which is really hard to find, but they're out there.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It's not easy. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. And unless you want to just, instead of being a business owner, have the business own you, you have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Another thing that you bring up too is systems and processes, and how important that is to implement in your business so you can run it like a Fortune 500 company. What in the Mike Hambright mind, to you, what is systems and processes, and what are some things that investors and real estate professionals can implement today that can help them with growing their team and their business?
Yeah. So in the real estate world, like if you're in the single family real estate world, the good thing is a lot of the processes that you use are very repetitive. You do them over and over again, right? It could be when you purchase acquisitions, once you purchase a house, or so let's just start with like lead gen. Lead comes in, we answer the phone live. If it's an email, like a web lead, we have to respond within 60 seconds or whatever, right? You kind of create these SOPs of like, here's exactly how to do that thing, from here's the script to answer the phone and say the company name. on and on and on, right? So those things are really easy to document because the truth is almost everybody does them the same way if they do them right. There's not a lot of room for creativity on a lot of those things, but it could be once we get a house under contract, send it to the title company. Here's how we start communications with the seller, put a lockbox on the door, on and on and on. If you're going to wholesale it, start marketing that sucker like ASAP, right? It's a list of tasks that you just document one time. And so if you're a real estate investor and more of a solopreneur and you don't have these things documented and you're not very detail oriented, just find somebody that is. I mean, in my instance, when we started our business and for a long time, really up until recently, my wife has been just as involved in the business as me. She was very much the detail oriented one that managed a lot of those types of processes. And she's our CFO and all these other things, right? Or just find somebody that you know. I mean, we're all related. If you feel like you're not detail oriented, you're surely related to somebody somewhere, or you could hire somebody for a day to come in and document those processes for you. And we put them in tool. There's a lot of tools out there. A lot of CRMs have these embedded inside of them now, but a common one is like Asana as a task management tool where a new house could be a project. And this is how it starts. These are the 75 tasks you have to do from the time you get it under contract till the time you sell it. Turn off the utilities, turn off the insurance, take the lockbox off the door, and put the file in the filing cabinet in the back room or whatever, right? And then you're kind of done. So it's just documenting those things so that somebody else can do it. Until that's documented, it's hard for you to hand that off to somebody else. And so now we've also had people, and I don't think this is the best way to do it, but historically we've hired people and we're like, hey, your first job is to document what you're going to be doing here. So I'm going to tell you what you're going to do and I need you to document it. I mean, that is a way to do it. It's not the best. I'm guilty of hiring a lot of people and I'm like, hey, your first job is your computer's in that box over there. I just bought it at Costco yesterday and I need you to set it up and like get that set up and then let's talk.
Yeah.
That's not the best way to hire somebody, but I've done that many times, But yeah, the biggest thing is just you can't start to delegate all these things we're talking about in your business until it's documented, because you can't hold somebody accountable if they're not following a process that you kind of agree with, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody's going to have a different approach to how they go about this. Right. And it's what works for you and your business and your team.
Yeah.
And it can't be copied from what somebody else is doing. It has to fit your model and your role. And
a lot of processes. I mean, honestly, that's one of the benefits of the mastermind is people share their SOPs all the time for hiring. Those are some of the early ones that people really should focus on, is how to hire people on your team. Because if you're trying to buy back your time, that's the first thing you need to do, is hire the right people that can then help document some of those processes. So you can, it's pretty common that people in our mastermind will say, does anybody have an SOP for this or that? And it doesn't mean that you have to do their exact thing, but it's a starting point instead of a blank piece of paper. And you can just go through it and say, well, we do this a little bit differently. And let's tweak this and tweak that. So that's one of the beauties of surrounding yourself with a lot of amazing operators, is that a lot of those things actually can be shared and you just have to kind of customize it for your own business.
Very cool. And that's a very great benefit of being in a mastermind. Yeah. You can bounce ideas off each other. You can talk to each other and everybody wants to collaborate, right? And help each other. And Mike, the other thing that some people go through with their businesses is they run it for 3 years and then maybe their profits aren't there and they feel like they're going to go into failure mode. How do you avoid failure in business and build a business that serves you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could try to prevent failure. One of the things that I talk about a lot is like, the only thing that will cause you to quote fail is quitting. Like, failures are just stepping stones to more success. Like, you have to touch the hot stove. You have to do things that are painful in order for you to realize what not to do. So the goal is not to not fail. It's to get back up again and learn from that, so you don't do the same mistake more than once, right?
Yeah.
And so now on the other comment of this, every 3 years you hit this ceiling. Now, for a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we're doing things now that we've never done before. So you've kind of heard of this idea of the Peter principle, right? So I don't know. The context that I give it is that people are let's say in corporate America or in politics or anything where people are hired or I guess voted in or whatever, they're usually making it to a role to where it's just beyond their own capabilities. Like, and they tend to not perform. So there's a lot of senior people in politics for sure, and definitely even in corporate America that are they just come off as incompetent, but it's because they got elevated just past their abilities at that point. At least, like, you can learn because they fail and they kind of learn how to do better there, right? It's the same for us as entrepreneurs. Like, if you're pushing the max of what you're capable of and you're like trying to break through a ceiling, like, you're moving into no man's land. You haven't been there before. And so what some entrepreneurs do, this is one of the beauties of the mastermind, is you can find people that have broken through that already. Like, I'm stuck, I'm hitting my head on this thing. How do I get through it? Or I just can't get beyond this. And so what a lot of people, we talk a lot about is, it really is, who do you need to become to be able to operate at that level? Like, for most of us, we need to be better leaders than we've ever been before, especially if you're building out a team and things like that, right? And if, but the reality is it's really easy because a lot of real estate entrepreneurs are ultimately opportunists, right? Like, we didn't get into real estate for the real estate. We got into it because we thought it was a way to make money. And it's real easy, especially with social media, to say, man, real estate's hard right now. Let me go do business acquisitions, or go into crypto day trading, or let me go into some other thing. And it appears to be easy. And the reality is maybe it is a little bit easier right now, but that too will get hard in 2 or 3 years. Like, you're going to get to a point to where you're maxing out and you're hitting that ceiling again, right? And then, so the question is will you break through that ceiling, and over the course of a 20 or 30 year career, break through 10 of those ceilings and be at a level that you never imagined you could be at, which is going to bring you amazing freedom and relationships and impact and all these things? Or will you keep essentially starting over with something new every 2 or 3 years, and in the same 20 or 30 years be either a couple years into something new or back at the starting gate, while the person, your twin brother that just kept pushing forward or whatever, is like, made it look like an overnight success. And he's like, it's not, he just didn't give up.
Yeah, I get it all. Yeah. And it's great advice for people out there to listen to this, because Mike, you've had years of experience going through different pain points and ups and downs, the type of markets. I mean, you've been through the '08 cycle. You went through the up in right after that. Then you went through the COVID era. So you've seen these different cycles and how your businesses have been able to thrive through those and avoid failures in business, right? So people should take note that there's people like Mike out there that have been through these, and others that have been through these situations.
And I want to be clear, like, I've had plenty of failures. I actually just posted this on social media earlier today. Like, someday people will say to you, must be nice. Like, it's so easy for you. And, stuff like that. Right. And as the entrepreneur knows, like, you have no idea. Like, you have no idea what I've been through. I gave an example of a little while back, a few months back, somebody said to me, man, everything you touch turns to gold. And I was like, dude, you have no idea how many turds I've had to polish. I guess I wasn't trying to hide it, but we see the highlight reels for people's lives on social media. You don't see the sleepless nights, the bags under your eyes, the everything that comes with the failures, right? But again, failure doesn't have to be final if you get back up and you keep running.
Love that. That's great. Mike, one big important topic that I think a lot of people can get value from is lead generation. And I know that investors are always trying to find ways to get more leads for their business, whether it's more of the probate leads or just consistent leads on foreclosures, or any types of leads that can get sellers to respond, get deals, and grow. How do you consistently drive high quality leads to grow your business?
Yeah. Well, great question. I don't know if you know this, but Investor Machine is one of my companies, and it actually is probably the largest and definitely the most sophisticated lead gen company in the country for real estate investors. And so we're really a data company. I mean, we literally have about 75 employees that are mining data, we have software engineers, we have data scientists, and we're using big data and creating big data to predictively model who's most likely to sell their house next. And then we kind of white glove manage your direct mail campaigns for real estate investors. But to your question of how do you do this, this is one of the challenges that this is going to sound self-serving, but most real estate investors just don't advertise enough to hit their goals. And most real estate investors, and I've been one of them for 17 years, are cheap. Like, we try to find cheap houses. We're trying to find cheap labor. What's the cheapest lead gen? And it's like, I kind of give this joke sometimes, like, if you had to get heart surgery, or you're like, hey man, I'm looking for like a half price deal out there. Does anybody have a good heart surgeon that can, perform heart surgery? I mean, like, we would never do that. Right. But the reality is at the end of the day, I think of lead generation. Leads are just the fuel for your business. So you would never say, hey, I'm going to go on a cross country drive, but I'm just going to put like a quart of gas in and see how far that gets me. It's like, well, if you put a quart in, quarter of a gallon, and you get 20 miles a gallon, you're going to get about 5 miles. I mean, that's all you're going to get, right? But real estate investors put a quart of kind of fuel into their tank, and they want to see how far they're going to get. And you can almost tell them in advance, like, how far they're going to get. So most are just unreasonable about what they're going to get for their efforts. So if you have big goals, again, it's ultimately math. I talk a lot about ROAS, return on ad spend, which is the most common metric used to measure advertising effectiveness outside of the real estate investing industry. In the real estate investing industry, most people focus on cost per lead or cost per contract or cost per closing, but those numbers don't tell you anything about the profitability of those deals. And so ROAS is how many dollars that I put in advertising versus how many dollars of profit that I get back. And so the best metric that I can tell people, what I tell people, is you should really be willing to invest in things that you can scale. And a lot of channels can't be scaled. So people will say to me all the time, like, hey man, I got a really good deal on radio advertising. It's only like $500 a year. And I'm like, that, first off, maybe you get a deal a year out of that, or a couple maybe, but you can't scale it. So just instead of trying to find some way to get one deal and be so transactional, find channels that are going to feed you over and over and over again that you can actually scale up. And the most scalable ones are direct mail and pay-per-click, because you can just raise your budget. In fact, most real estate investors shouldn't be doing those things themselves. So you just tell your service provider, like, hey, I want to go from 4,000, like ratchet me up to 8 or 12 or 20. And you can really highly scale those channels. So we know for sure that, and probates are obviously amazing leads too, right? We mail to probate leads, and we tend to mail to probate leads that also have other data indicators that would show distress there, like not only a probate, but they've also got 2 years behind on taxes and some mowing liens. And like, we join all that together and say, hey, this is telling a bigger story than any one data point alone would tell, right?
Yeah.
And so what I would encourage real estate investors, I could talk about this all day long, buddy. So I know your show's not long enough, but I'll try to put a bow on this, is if you're trying to scale your business, you should advertise enough. You should spend 25% of your gross profit, be willing to spend 25% of the gross profit in your business on lead generation, which would be a 4x ROAS or a 400% return on your lead generation, if you can scale that. So if I were to ask most real estate investors, like, hey, would you put in 5,000 if you could get back 20? They'd be like, hell yeah. Now, there's no guarantees, but if you could do that at scale, so you put in 20 and you get back 80, yeah, sounds good. And that is, in fact, exactly what most real estate investors need to do. Now, they need to be good at, they need to make sure they answer the phone live. They need to be great at not over screening deals and trying to figure out a way to not have to go on an appointment. Mm-hmm. Like, the whole sales pipeline thing is a whole nother thing, but think of it like your car. Like, I'm driving across the country and I have a 400-mile range and I'm going 600 miles. It's like, well, fill that thing up, and then halfway through, you're going to have to fill it up again, Yeah. And stop trying to screw around with putting a couple dollars of kind of fuel in here and there, because it's not going to get you very far. And we all know it. But what I found is real estate investors, and I have a lot of amazing friends in this industry, that just tend to not be very good at math when it comes down to it. And that's an important skill to have.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, you got to be willing to spend the money on the marketing side. right? A lot of people will pull back on marketing. Well, marketing is the driving factor.
That's the last thing you should cut.
Yeah, you need to be able to pump the money into marketing, whether it's on your social media side, ad spend, Google PPC, PPL, or any other type, or like a investor machine, right? And so it's important that you dial in on these processes. And there's people out there that when they do that, it works. I mean, I see so many people that when they market the right way, it works. And like you said, Mike, you were speaking my language too. Like, if you want to find these leads, you got to get with the right service providers too that will find the distress indicators like the pre-foreclosures, code violations, tax delinquencies, vacant properties, because all of these are distress signals, and these people actually are motivated. They can be motivated to sell. I mean, they're out there. When people tell me, oh, we can't find the leads, they're out there. They're just, it's not going to have a blinking light on it. You got to dig, right?
Well, and if it does, everybody's going after it, right?
Yeah.
So the biggest thing you can do from a marketing standpoint, and really in every probably part of your business, is just be consistent as hell, like clockwork. And like, nobody cares. Some seller doesn't care if you don't answer the phone. They're not going to say like, well, I'll try them again later. They're not going to do it. They're going to move on to the next one, the next one, the next one, right? And so you just have to operate. I think most real estate investors could double or triple their profit simply by answering the phone live and being not over screening and being great at follow-up. And that doesn't cost you really another dime. Like, you've already spent money on advertising. It's just basically doing the things that you know you're supposed to do better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great stuff, Mike. I mean, again, you've been through this, so you see what happens when you do it the right way, and doing it the right way counts. Well, this has been fantastic, Mike. Love all the advice and insight to what you can provide other people out there, especially when you've seen it from other investors, especially in your mastermind. I do a segment at the end with signature questions. So I got a few for you. A lot of us have been through great deals and bad deals. For you, Mike, what was the worst deal you have been through, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, well, I've been through a bunch of bad deals, but I would say I'll use an example of a house. I'll just give you a specific real estate example of a house that I just got to the point to where we just overlooked a bunch of stuff to try to do another deal that month, and so it ended up being on a relatively busy. It was like, it bordered a busy road, but the entrance was on an off road. So we're like, well, it's not that big of a deal. The driveway is on the off road, but the side of the house, you could hear traffic all day long, right? Right on the other side of that busy road was like a power highway, like those massive like power lines. And you didn't realize until after we bought it that if you stand in the front yard, you can hear like the electric lines like humming, And we just didn't inspect the roof very closely. So it had like a cedar shingle. So in Texas, like you generally can't get insurance on roofs that have like cedar shingles on them. But this is one where people put asphalt shingles over the top of cedar shingles, and we didn't catch it. Literally, it only got caught when we had it for sale, under contract to sell, and their inspector caught it. So we had to put like a $20,000 roof replacement on it. And so it was just a combination of just trying to force a deal to make it work, and ended up being, a deal that I think we lost like 40 or 50 grand on. And so anyway, the lesson there is like, don't try to force deals, and don't overlook seemingly small stuff that could add up to big dollars.
Yeah. Sometimes the little hits add up over time, and people pass those kind of deals off because they're going for the giant $50,000, $100,000 deals.
Right.
And sometimes those can be they can be great, or they can be your biggest downfall, because you put most time and energy, and time is also something that people don't account for in these deals as well.
For sure. Right.
They want the $100,000 deal, and then all of a sudden it takes 2 to 3 years, and then it didn't happen. And
the opportunity cost of their time. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of us, we have certain things that we do in our jobs that we enjoy, like make us happy about our business. Like when we see leads coming in from the success and the work that we do. I know that for me, like when I see either doing the podcast, doing the episodes, or churning out the probates, and then we see other people say, hey, go to Al. What do you enjoy most about your job, Mike?
I would say, I have a lot of different businesses, a lot of things going on. What I really enjoy the most is seeing success from the others around me. Because let's be honest, if people in my mastermind aren't successful, then I'm not going to be successful either. They'll leave, stop paying, whatever, right? And so, I mean, self-serving, I want to make money, but I also love seeing other people that are successful too. So we've got some people in our mastermind that, I knew before they'd even flipped a single house, and now they're doing 100 a year. Or these guys that are doing 600 or 800 deals a year, when they joined my group, they were doing 3 deals a month, right? And so just to kind of see these success stories of people that are around me that I don't want to take credit for anything, but I've had some small role, or my community has had a role in kind of helping them get there. So I think I'm at a point now where, again, I love to win and I love to make money personally, but I really get jazzed about impacting others.
That's amazing. And 100% agree with that, right?
Yeah.
When you can see others have an impact from the work that you do, and it takes hold, and then they're all of a sudden they're growing their business, it makes it amazing. It's so much better.
Yeah.
So awesome. Mike, the market transitioned so much in the last couple of years between the interest rates and different political climates, and now the market's transitioning again. Where do you see the market going in the next 5 years with real estate?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I used to think I was like, put my economist hat on and had some opinions on things. And the truth is, man, I don't know. I don't think interest rates are going to come down a whole lot anytime soon, quite frankly. And so I think people just have to kind of get comfortable with operating where they are now. So it's a combination of I like to think of the market like this. Roughly half of the market, for half of the opportunity for real estate investors, are things that, quite frankly, haven't changed. There's still people that are going through difficult situations: death, divorce, inheritance, problem rentals where landlords are just dumping their property. So that's like half of the opportunity. And that hasn't gone away. That's actually still happening. People are still buying houses from those things. What's really kind of tapped the brakes on a lot of people operating and doing as many deals as they have in the past is the other half of the business, which are people that are selling to real estate investors for convenience, right? It's like, and they're usually selling a problem house and moving up into another level house. And because of where interest rates are and things like that, that's actually slowed that side down. And so, there are things to try to navigate those waters. It could be creative acquisitions and different things like that. The reality is I think there's people that are, in and around me that have struggled, and there's people that are like crushing it. The people that are doing the best right now are those that really got operationally efficient, just got lean, and figured out ways to stay like super focused and not like, I'm going to start doing some crypto day trading on the side here as well. They just got laser focused on the operations. And so they're making more from less just by converting more of their deals or finding ways to collaborate with others in their market, or, their cheese moved and they were able to kind of follow it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, a lot of us don't know where it's going, right? But it's being able to follow those market trends and stay focused and stay lean in your business, and make sure that you're keeping the overhead down, right? Keeping the expenses low, and just making sure you know where things are going, and follow what other experts are or have been through, right? You've seen these different changes.
One thing I'll share here is like, the biggest opportunity for most real estate investors is to steal market share from other real estate investors. Like there's, any of us in our markets are an extremely small slice of that pie, right? So maybe the pie is shrunk, but that doesn't mean you can't grab a much bigger slice of that. And how do you do that? Through more and better marketing and more and better, just way better operations that we've kind of already talked about here. So, if you're listening to this, a lot of people have left the market, so there's less competition than there has been before. This is the time to step into those bigger shoes and just take a bigger slice of that pie. Even if the pie shrunk a little bit, doesn't mean you can't take a much bigger slice of it.
Yeah, you're right though, Mike. I've seen people that were in the market a couple of years ago that are no longer in the market.
Right.
And then you see the ones that have really stuck around and are digging deep even more than ever.
Yep.
So,
for sure.
It's here to stay. Real estate's not going anywhere. And
no, people need shelter, and they're still humans here. And, so if there's people in houses there, there's opportunity.
There's opportunity. Well, great stuff, Mike. Thanks so much for coming on the show today and just dropping all this valuable information for all of us. If anybody wants to get in touch with you or find out more about the Investor Machine or Investor Fuel, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can connect with me. The best way is probably on Facebook. You can private message me if you want to, or just go to investorfuel.com to learn more about our mastermind community, or investormachine.com to learn more about our lead generation company. But yeah, appreciate the opportunity to be here, Al.
You got it, Mike. And as I do with all my guests at the end of the show, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. Any lasting impressions for the guests? So final words, final thoughts, Mike Hambright.
Yeah. Okay. I think, again, I'm repeating myself here, but this is an amazing opportunity. It's changed my family tree, and it's changed the family trees of a lot of people around me and in my inner circles. And so at the end of the day, real estate can change your life, but you just have to stay laser focused on it. Times get hard. Just surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up and kind of pull you off the edge. There's plenty of people that are going to tell you, I told you so, you never should have done that. And you really need to surround yourself with people that will say, man, that sucks, but I've been through that before, and here's how I fix that. So just make sure you're running in the right circles, and you're going to be just fine.
Absolutely. Surround yourself with the right people, and that'll be the game changer right there. Mike, awesome seeing you. Can't wait to see you at Family Mastermind again.
That's
and
right.
Thanks again so much for coming on, brother. Appreciate you.
Great to see you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course, man. We'll see you soon.
Yep. See ya.
All right, everybody. It's another one in the books on Wednesday night. You heard it from the man himself, Mike Hambright. If you heard of Mike, you know what he's about. But if you haven't heard of him, you got to check him out. Follow him on the socials that we've been showing on the screen. If you want to get in touch with him, you definitely got to get in touch with him and find out more about Investor Machine and Investor Fuel. So many great resources and so much to unpack with Mike's episode. So much value on running businesses, systems and processes, lead generation. You don't want to miss it. Go back, rewind, check that out. And for more of our content on the Al Nicoletti Show, scan the QR code on the bottom of the screen. You'll find all the guests on the Al Nicoletti Show and all the content on social media and YouTube. You don't want to miss it. It's another one in the books. We will see you next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another episode on the Al Nicoletti Show. We will see you there. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.